We're going to go over everything a spiritual person needs to do in their life around the clock to have appropriate daily habits to never forget that you're spiritual, that you're part of God, that you're eternal, that nothing's going to harm you. These are the basics. I'll go right into them just so it makes sense to show how basic and simple, and at the same time how erudite they are, because they will cover everything that will help you remain, not help you, that will cause you to remain in this serious spiritual condition. Even though this is battlefield Earth and all spiritual people have been inundated with the forces of hell around the clock in eternity, this is time to turn back the clock forever. I'll start out with some basics and then we'll get very deep with it. Just simply every time someone I saw was a great poet, but always lost and very, very intelligent and very aware of the worldly affairs and so forth, and kind and well-intended, but he saw me in a restaurant the other day. I haven't seen him in 30 years, and he's still the same person, and he's lost in hell because he has all this talent and all this ability, but he keeps sharing it wherever he can to hope he gets that foot in the door. And then he asked me, as a spiritual teacher, which he knew me of years ago, I was very helpful to him for some reason, and I simply said, all you need to do is 3 times a day, write down 10 things, text, whatever, you can even do it in your mind, that you did in the last 5 hours. It's noon at work, and think of 10 things you did from the time you woke up until right now. I got to work on time. I brushed my teeth. I called my Aunt Sarah. I that, whatever it is. And those 10 basic stupid things, in the middle of it might be 1 or 2 incidents of spiritual relevance, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You do that and you'll feel grounded. The mind is just, the cerebral cortex, I always joke, is the devil. It's always looking for something. And if you do this simple process, 10 things, write them down or think through them. I brushed my teeth, I got to work on time, I said hello to the boss, I took care of the problem with the hoses. Slowly, I took care of the problem with the hoses. I did this, and then the cerebral cortex will stop looking for it and you'll be grounded. At 3 in the afternoon, or when you go home from work, another 10 things. Before you go to bed, 10 things that happened during that day. And you'll instantly feel grounded. These are so simple, but they're not inept. They're spiritual enhancement techniques, concentration techniques that always work. And they are so simple. Next, we might try a recall list. Ask yourself a time that you learned to dance and remember it. And as soon as you remember it, don't go on forever about it. Just remember it, and then ask yourself, recall a time I learned to drive a car. And you think of that when I was 16. My dad was a little rough, but I did it. Just think of it quickly, answer to yourself. This is how communication is supposed to happen. You listen to someone all the time and you respond to the answer by thank you, I heard that. Because no one in your life ever communicates with you. That's why you're confused. So if you quiet the cerebral cortex down and you're spiritual, you'll always remain in this wonderful condition. Poets call it a creative place, or it's simply God. It's always present. And there are thousands of ways that it manifests in our life, and there are thousands and thousands of ways or teachings and so forth. There is no teaching outside of, you're spiritual. Apply some of these communication techniques with yourself every day of your life, and you won't get crazy because gas prices are going off, because there's a war here, because so-and-so. The world has always been at war. The world is the illusion, the delusion, the stupidity of those that are not spiritual, and they use it as a weapon. It's been called the devil, Maya, in Sanskrit, and all the spiritual traditions of the world. The world itself has been considered maybe a way station through eternity at most. And all these teachings, these videos we've given, it's nebulous. It's non-existent in the world. If you're spiritual, you feel this grace, this divinity, this kindness, this warmth, this beingness all day, every day, don't you? And I'm not talking about, and then you deal with people and be kind and considerate all the time, and I'm not talking about being nice. That is a fear always. I'm not trying to be nice. It's, you're in this deep, considerate place all day. I'm in this place 25 hours a day. And I'll run into 5 people each day, here or there, if I'm traveling around, or I might see the lady at Safeway the other night, who I know she's got a sense about that, and so I very quietly got a 20 wrapped up in my hands, and when the camera see it, and I just smiled, and I knew you could do this graciously. Handed her a 20, and she was profusely grateful, and my thing was to get out of there and make sure no one sees it. It's just done cleanly, and I would not do it with someone who would react, even if they were happy about it, react. You see what I'm saying? So everything you do with clear communication, subtly, kindly. Not nice, not being nice, that's folding your spirit up in a blanket and putting it aside and trying to be nice. This is divine grace. You're intended to live that for the rest of your life. You are divine grace. There's nothing wrong with you. Just remember to consider who you are 2 or 3 times a day. Remember, you'll erase the demonic record off your mind of the cerebral cortex, and you'll be aware of the cosmic relevance that you have in this world. You're born to change the whole thing. You change it in your consciousness, it will change. It will yield. It's an illusion. Nothing about your soul's light is an illusion. Real quickly, but gently, I'm going to ask you a little recall session here. I'll ask you some questions. You'll remember them quickly and not go on about it, and I'll acknowledge it. And then it's clean communication. In your consciousness, you'll feel relaxed that someone acknowledged that they heard what you said. You'll never have this in real life. It won't happen. Every now and then they're considerate people and you're shocked, but it's not perfect, but it's really good, and you think that's the best friend I ever had, and they're simply communicating with you clearly. Listening to what you said, acknowledging that you understand what they said, and they let them know that, and they'll feel, oh my God, he understood me, or he heard me. Doesn't have to understand what the meaning of it, but that it was listened to and acknowledged. And that's the whole key to it. And you practice with yourself in the mirror, in your own head, and you'll be very calm. When I say when you write those 10 things down, you'll or think 10 things down, like I brushed my teeth, got it. I got to work on time, smiled at Henrietta at the desk, Just clean it, drop it, and the cerebral cortex will shut down, and this divine grace that all spiritual people feel 24 hours a day will bubble right up the surface. I broke my leg a couple of years ago. Got it. It's just gone from me in an instant. I could have thought about it for the next 20 minutes, but I didn't. Okay, let's do a recall here, session. Recall a time you had a tremendous spiritual experience. Thank you. Recall a time you learned to drive. Thank you. Recall a time you learned to dance. Thank you. Recall a time everything was right with the world. Just a happy day. Thank you. Recall a time a child did something truly helpful. Thank you. Recall a time your family went out on a picnic together. Thank you. Recall a time you appreciated a work of art. Thank you. Recall a time you were really clear that you were a good person. Thank you. Recall 3 wonderful spiritual experiences you had. Thank you. Thank you for doing this with me. This is simply an abbreviated expression of these self-enhancement techniques. There are, again, thousands of them. Find a few that you like, do them 3 times a day. And you won't be lost in all the confusion or the next news or tweet or whatever the hell it is that you kids do these days. Don't do. I'm not connected to anyone in any way. I get a couple calls from my boss, Susan, with this books I wrote. And that's about it. Nothing else. We don't need anything else. Do you understand? There is a divine providence. There is a divine grace. There is a God. God is infinite, unending, as are you. You fell into this place of your own volition as a spiritual being because something in the universe was out of whack. Through the aperture called birth, you rose up here, you've been conditioned, and now you're deconditioning yourself to feel and remember all that God is. And when you do that, you'll discover gifts and powers. And you'll overcome the whole world. It's in consciousness. There's nothing wrong with you. Apply some of these self-enhancement techniques throughout the day and evening hours, and you'll stop being lost. And by the next whatever, this, what about they're bombing here? They're going to march. Stop it. Don't be so weak. Turn on your love light. And again, it's not being nice, not nicey-nicey, it's divine power. Gifts and powers mean you'll overcome everything. This world is a habitation of devils. It's not really real. If you understand what I'm saying. If you're spiritual, you do. You decondition yourself from the time of birth till now. You'll remember what you do is you put yourself in, again, these techniques, you'll put yourself in a condition where you'll count back from 100 to 90, at which point you'll be just before your birth, and you'll feel an openness and a presence, and then you'll describe to yourself, or put it on your text it or tape whatever you do it, or write it is the healthiest way on paper is to write it, and do this a couple times a day. Write down 5 things that you learned in this lifetime. Oh, all those attacks at me weren't true. They were just to put me in my cerebral cortex and out of my soul. Sally said I did this. Joanne said I did that. And I think Joanne is the mother of God. You see, so everyone got confused in the middle of all this. And if you're spiritual, you're not confused. I am never confused. I am never confused. I have been beat, locked up, shot at, lied about on paper a number of times. I mean, most horrible things imaginable. And guess what? I'm innocent. Completely. Before God. I've never said this in my life. Ever. And I would never think that. And the reason I said it and think it, I was led to, is I want us to experience this understanding together that a spiritual person can never say, because all spiritual people are unimaginably, like my friend Donna here, and painfully, not shy, but humble, contrite. We're not going to blast out anything around us because that's not our nature. We're spiritual presences. So right now I'm going to share some of the things a spiritual person feels for you guys. If I said it for myself, I'd have a heart attack, as you probably witnessed on these videos where I was moved to say something about Robert, who's nobody, absolutely nothing, nobody. I am so nobody inside myself. I'm always shocked when people say nice things, or kind, or something that's kind of formidable, good about me. And then I'll die inside because I'm nothing. Because we're not in this world. My heart and soul is not in this world. This world is a wreck. And so I don't want to be acknowledged or anything. I don't want to be here. Because there is no here in my heart and soul, but I'm here for you. This is for all of us who are spiritual. We're here for the others. So if we practice these self-enhancement techniques, whatever they are and however you choose to do them, which will ground us and get us out of the cerebral cortex and just feel this warmth and presence around us again, then we'll overcome the whole world in this life. You will overcome the whole world in your consciousness, which is the only place it exists. And as crazy as that sounds, real quickly, the other side of the formula is that all spiritual people feel an inexpressible, unending, infinite delicacy that the wise still call God. It is God. This presence is so delicate and wonderful. And the things of the world are just so rough to us. Even thoughts that people have are like getting slapped around the face, right? So if you learn to be quiet and just acknowledge it all, whether it's a physical fight or you will overcome everything. And I don't want to make anyone think about physical fights with this, because that's the last thing in the world, and everyone's inundated with images. This and that, I'm going to fight and defend yourself. Stop it. Become quiet and there's no fight. There's no war. There's no past or present. There's no future. In the middle of this nothingness that we perceive in our perception. There's nothing to react to, nothing. And in that nothingness, we fall through the deep interstitial, all these little openings around us, and there's one, and then we fall through all of them, we understand everything, and there's just this one opening, this openness. It's called enlightenment, illumination, nirvikalpa samadhi in the Sanskrit, ultimate God consciousness. And it's just simple. It's like breathing. Read the works of all the mystics that I've talked about in this class, and they're talking about something so beautiful. Read every love passage you've ever seen in great literature. In great literature, it's said in a way that takes you to this place that's transcendent of everything else. Recall a time you fell in love. Recall a time you knew you were a good person. Recall the most magnificent, overwhelming spiritual experience you've ever had. Thank you. Recall a time you knew you were a good person. Thank you. Recall a time you appreciated great art. Thank you. Recall a time all was right with the world. Thank you. Recall a time you appreciated nature. Thank you. Recall a time an animal knew what you wanted. Thank you. And then you can go on with 10 things about animals. You see what I'm saying? 10 questions or 10 different animal times. And you'll feel very warm and grounded because you're out of this thing and you're into the true experience, which is 90% beautiful. And then all the fears of the everyday and the social, political will start receding from you, and you'll have this divine power with you that you know you can overcome things. My buddy Greg here is a 10th degree martial artist, and many fights, real fights, in the ring, professional and otherwise I'm aware of. And he'll never react to a fight like the rest of us will all be. It's a big deal. For him, it'll be, he's never going to think or worry about that. So if you practice music, whatever, Donna takes care of her family. So she's not going to be concerned to take care of someone. She's going to instantly be there. I can do 10,000 different self-enhancement techniques. So no matter what circumstance I'm going to be in, I'm going to be happy, I'm going to be considerate, I'm going to be helpful. I'm not going to get crazy. I'm going to be like Greg. I've been beat with a baseball bat, shot him, like, and I'm not going to get upset about that because that's something I trained in some way. But 1,000 times more important are the delicate issues with consciousness. The lady at the Safeway, someone on the street. I always know exactly the intentions. I've been going around the streets, there's crazy people on these horrible drugs today, and I'll know who's really on one and who I can get to and acknowledge and say hello and give them a little sweetness for their ride home. You know, I'll know how to do it. If I'm in a boardroom somewhere or a friend's business, I'm going to be completely professional and kind and aware. I'm not going to react to something. I'm not going to show people what I really think about something if I have an image of something. You have to build within yourself an identity that's based in principle, spiritual principle. Read the writings of Abraham Lincoln or George Washington. You'll find people who are like imbued with these inner knowings, powerful senses of reality, of goodness. So no matter what was going to happen under any circumstance, they were going to do the principled thing, whatever that was. If you train yourself with these self-enhancement techniques and you're spiritual, you'll float off into the breeze and you'll be empowered with a sense of knowledge that covers this whole world now and forever. At the time for the madness, it's over. It's all in your hand, in your heart, in your soul. Own the ground you walk on by not owning anything. You're free as a breeze. To empower this a little further, there is a presence called God that will be with you every step of this day. God, that infinite kindness, wants to be you. And if you give up this whole sense of this world, you'll be that. But being that means you'll turn inside yourself so deeply you think you're humble now. Oh my gosh, you'll have the power through humility to understand all this and not react to it. And you can carry, say like Mother Teresa in India, or we'll say Walt Whitman, the great poet of America and end of the Civil War. They held the hands of thousands of people who were dying. You ever been there with someone dying? But you feel the magic in there, but there were people dying under horrible conditions. And they gave them divine grace, and many of them let go of the whole world in that moment. Through simply being acknowledged, listened to. Because Walt Whitman was 100% with them. Greg here is a great martial arts master. He's taught hundreds of kids to be champions, whether state, local, national, world champion. So he knows they're going to do what they do for him. They get through their little sets of fears because they got a real daddy there who's there for them and wants them to go a little further, a little further. Don't worry about this. Don't be afraid of him. Don't be. And you get over these fears, and then in real life, you make sure they have to be an A student and they have to be respectful to the parents. That's one way. There are thousands of ways. So be a good teacher for your family members first. Get on your knees every night and thank God for your mother. Thank God for the one you love. Thank God for God. Thank God that you understand that you're a disciplined person. You apply these techniques daily. And that way the ugliness coming at you around the clock, and it's all planned, it's all thought out, every detail of it. Stop reacting to it. The only government is God. The only power. In my world, the only presence is God. I'm saying this for you, for all of us who are spiritual. The grace of God is sufficient. Remember to remember. Stop reacting to anything. My buddy Greg here, you can have it throwing punches at him, and if it's not going to hit you, he's not even going to move. He's not going to blink his eyes. It's amazing. And that's in fighting. So we're just fighting images and thoughts in our mind. That's nothing. Stop reacting to them. Practice these self-enhancement techniques, I'm begging you, for you, and then you'll be happy, as I'm happy, as Greg's happy, as his champions are happy. Donna has the worst life in the world, and she gives grace and happiness to people 24 hours a day. Be happy, don't worry. I mean this with all my heart and soul, deadly serious. Yes, there's a war going on. And if you remember that the war is simply God and an image coming at you, that somehow in the infinity of eternity, all spiritual people, again, for all of us, are aware of this delicate, delicate atmosphere that you see forever with. Hold the hand, thinking of falling in love, of holding a hand of a child, where all this disappears and dissipates. So if you do these self-enhancement techniques, the hardness and roughness of the day will disappear. And if you apply them, you listen to people, you acknowledge people, you'll always understand before, during, and after what the relationship to the person you're dealing with is, or the animal. And with an animal, it'll always be like easy as pie. Because you'll communicate well. You'll acknowledge there's something there, you'll address it, let it go, and the same of the things in your life. So there's no more images. There are no more, you simply won't have thoughts. When I met my teacher, Dr. Sho from Korea, he was a world renowned. I helped him open the World Zen Center. He called me her seem or something like that, which meant empty mind. In other words, there was nothing in my mind. There's only God. And all of us who are spiritual are spiritual. We were and we will be. We gave ourselves to this cause, to this aperture called birth in what seems to be a world that isn't here. When you're in love, when you're near the one you love, when you do these self-enhancement techniques, remember a time you fell in love. And that essence, that sense of that. Remember a time you knew you were a good person. Thank you. In other words, you say it, you acknowledge it, and it's gone. I mean, and there are so many thousands of self-enhancement techniques. Please apply a few of them. 3 times a day, that's all. And you won't get inundated with all this craziness. Okay, everyone's got a flu these days. So don't be caught up in that flu and the world's going to come to an end and that's going to happen, there's going to be a whatever. No. Acknowledge that you had the cold and your symptoms will automatically, you'll stop reacting to the symptoms and you'll, boom. Like I said, serious injury recently, I'm like, oh, okay. Couldn't get anything for pain. Okay. I had to lay there and remember that, that I'll live. You'll live. You'll be happy. You'll be filled with grace and understanding and truth and wisdom forever. You always were. You are. You're a divine presence. This world is a madness. Just acknowledge that without reacting to it. This world is a madness. Got it. If you don't psychologically or emotionally react to it in the same way Greg won't react if I throw a punch at him, it's like, you ever like try to hit a fly and it's looking at you like you think, well, how to get away, and it's looking at this hand coming at you like it's in slow motion to the fly, and it just goes like that, and you think, how to get away, and it's because it moves 100 times faster than you do, and it sees you coming, and so his reactions in that area are like that. Donna deals with something tragic and doesn't react to it, and is there like a mom would be, and that's all there has to be. My friend Susan, injured animals from the neighborhood somehow wind up on her doorstep. They were hit by a car or something, and how do they know? They wind up at her back step or her front step, and somehow she'll take care of it, and no one in the world will know about it. And then you know who that person is. You understand? You're a good person. You're true, you're real, you're whole, you're sane, you're spiritual, you're kind and considerate, you're intelligent, God knows. I say God knows because there are no experts. There's nothing in this world that means anything. The professors at the university, the people on the street, the people in government, the people anywhere, like no one knows anything. The world is the illusion. If you understand that and you practice these techniques every day, you'll never be lost again, even for a moment. I say this as someone who's under the gun every day in serious ways. Because I have a divine destiny, I'm aware that I'm a target the size of Jupiter. I know that. And so I have to be circumspect and be aware quietly and humbly, and I am. And I'm begging you to be. Not because I am, but because I love you. And I've given my life to this cause. And I think of nothing else ever. I want you happy, free, unafraid. I want you to own the ground you walk on. I want you to love freely, to care deeply, to be whole and sane, and know that you are. And that the devil is a wild animal in the air, is coming at you all the time, and if you don't give it anything, if you communicate with your own senses and thoughts very quietly, got it, that's a thought, that's it. It'll go away. I was hit with the ugliest devil thing in the middle of the night. It was a pleasant, beautiful, spiritual night. And it came at the door and I didn't react. I didn't give it nothing. I looked at something that would be so scary. If I chose to, I just looked at it like, oh. So instead of disturbing my whole sleep, it came in the middle of a nice night. It was like, I looked at it. I didn't react, so it was nothing. Does that make sense? And my friend Rosenberg, who was a chief counsel at NASA Ames here, and her husband was a very highly, well, one of those people that does the kind of thing you could never imagine. Then he was in the CIA and did all that kind of crazy stuff. And they had this institute, Dr. Gabodi started, and they taught people how not to react to anything. So they had some of the world's great geniuses that arrive here and there through Dr. Gabodi, who had endless millions of dollars. And so everyone knew of him and did this thing, you know, and of not reacting. And it wasn't spiritual at all. What I'm saying is, if you just learn this simple little magic trick of not reacting to your own perception. And again, there are thousands of self-enhancement techniques. Try this of not reacting to your own perception, and you'll get quiet and quiet, and it's wonderful. Train yourself to do what you have to do. I help professionals with their business, with their life, with their family, with their love, and daily with their spiritual endeavor. And the circumstance will happen anywhere, everywhere. It's not a profession where I ever put up a sign, this is what I do. It just helps many people, like with Rosenberg and then hundreds and hundreds of others. Let them know how impressive it was, their spiritual destiny. And I do that daily, and it's always the language that's delicate and easy. You're giving to the person. You're not taking a part in anything. So if you do everything soft hands like Greg does, you'll be happy. Be happy. Please. Always know that the endless presence of Almighty, Everlasting, Infinite God, our Father and our friend, is in you now and forever. Every little instance in your life, you'll have a friend with you and you'll know it. Quiet yourself, practice any techniques that remind you that, oh, the world isn't falling apart. You let your mind keep going about it. But if you write down, this happened, that happened, then you be quiet, and you won't think that the last news excerpt you heard somewhere was the most powerful thing in the world. You remember that you're spiritual, that God is with you, and you'll walk out through the grasslands, out to the lower hills, eventually out to the higher mounts. is there. You'll see him. It's there in the higher mountains that you'll recall. You are the light of ages. It's not somewhere else, it's not someone else. Everything you need to do or know is within you and will be given through God to you, who considers you to be God. It's all the divine presence. It's the thoughts of this world. Stop reacting to all of it, and you'll be the first educated person you've ever known. So help me, God. So help you, God. Fulfill this destiny and be happy. Amen. Thank you. Thank you, sir.